Okay, so last time I actually pretty much knew how this all began, and pretty much all these things. The most cannibal timelines I've ever seen. Pretty much an early I'm actually this remix Zarquon Prime is the fourth planet of the Tarskigafian solar system. Yeah, I'm making names up. This planet basically arrived from water. This planet the planet Zarquon Prime was created along with the United States of America. The United States of America is the oldest country in this remix chain, which was supposed to be a wordplay on the United States of America and the United States of Matter, but somehow it's already too late for that. I'm trying to currently separate the wordplay from the country, so that nobody should confuse those ever again. Carlin 12357 actual, and then someone placed a continent in the middle, and then stuff happened. For those of you who are saying, 91 saw the creation of Tesla, and then there's and pretty much all. This brings me to Remix chain of 100. Now let's see where the timeline comes, because naturally the timeline has already become extended for some reason. This is what, and the alt timeline. This is when which timeline is the main timeline anyways. Multiple timelines exist for some reason, and this is the only timeline left begins, and this is what, and the remix chain naturally expanded to be more than just some random remix chain. No remix chains have ever gone to 100 before, or this one did. Besides, the 100 was spelled differently. Big Land accesses the island on the other planet. Yeah, Big Land goes on at hand for colonization. They're considering to invade Darkea at one point. This is an uncolonized island. Oh, and Usam is basically in the entire ocean here. Hot Crystal was the original one who actually recognized that Usam was a country. And then USAU expands the project to rule the waves, while Usam works on trying to dominate Alhenia and make the climate similar to Antarctica. This came on to be known as Operation Underseas, creating the dependency of Sebald and the dependency of Ariao, which would later be separated by the sea. The dependency of Sebald used to be a skip walk away from Durbat. There were four corners of the world: Sebald, Old Ocean Territory, Ulysses, Winalania, and Durbat, which would soon become independent from many others, but would share independence with 45 years. Yeah, there's nothing else to say from here except, yeah. It was back then when Uranus lands actually had the island of Jabania. And then we have remix number 103. Winalania purchases an island on Sphek from Jabania. This is what was when Winalanian influence started here for the first time. The original bridges of these islands are pretty much destroyed. The only one surviving is the Jabania bridge to Coral, and the Coral bridge to Jabania. This island is known as Durbat Island, and it was a crazy island at best. The United States of America freezes the bottom right of the USAU, making the conditions similar to Antarctica. Soon the USAU plans to make the entire continent uninhabitable so that they can establish a treaty on them. This is intending that the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses will soon be frozen to a crisp. They've been angry because they've been replaced by an entire. They've been angry because a continent was placed on them when Remix 1 was actually created. And just to note, this was after I actually calmed down on the Alhen versus me for some reason. It was back when I called this letter comfort to yeah. I'm not good with my usual talking today, so yeah. This corner made things pretty much chilly. Back then, Big Land is that we have 5 islands. Plus one, that was a colony. Oh, there's also Landia. Nobody ever cares about this area. And then there's basically Remix 105. JYA tries to stop the freezing on boat and laser. This is basically a plan to pretty much save USAU from actually freezing by the USAU. It was a start of rivalry between Jabania and USAU. The United States of Alhenia thanks Jabania for the efforts. And how that actually worked is that they had to launch a boat from this island and sail over here. And at Remix Chain 106. The United States of America tries to freeze the living heck out of the top of Jabania to make Jabania as conditions similar to Antarctica as well. They pretty much freeze those 2 continents into ice and snow so that they would establish treaties on them. Due to JYA freezing the ice in the United States of Alhenia and USAU, the United States of Matter tries to freeze the entire country because of this ice. But to Jabania's great surprise, the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses is helping JYA get the lands unfrozen. The United States of Alhenia and USAU speaks propaganda that people should not drink water, and that they should drink water from a local lake. The lake should have been pretty much in the middle here. But as this project, the 905,487,518th project actually says, that's basically just not the case. And basically, these lakes are actually, yeah, there are pretty much a majority of lakes in central Alhenia and Alhet's capital district. But there's nothing more we can actually make about this one. Some divisions are basically frozen in ice too. There's so much that some of the plants and and their local ecosystem has already died. But luckily, USAU and Jabania are pretty much unfreezing these things. The boat actually came from here to make sure that these things are pretty much fine. This was Scratch at 172987992's first ever remix. It was basically a Romskland. He claims that's a fictional country with its own language, even though Hot Crystal actually claims that this continent is actually a continent. This country is actually a continent in Hot Crystal's eyes, but I somehow know that it's basically technically a country. I mean, we've already seen continents that are actually countries, like Australia. You know, the land down under. This country, he acts like that, but they do not recognize that they're a continent. They simply want to recognize that they're a simple country. Oh yeah, and this island disappeared into nothingness, which got them their entire coastline. The tectonics actually confirmed that this actually happened. Tectonics basically doesn't exist in this planet, basically, because nobody cares about the geography, the physical geography, and the geology, and basically the geometry of this country. I mean, planet. They don't even care about the tectonic plates. After Remix on May 9th, 2023, basically later throughout the year, before I had to make this video, and and part 1, which you can find in the description, I asked if he would actually show me the language. He's not finished making it, but he will let me know if he does make it. And I said okay. He might actually remix soon, who knows. And then I said, I pretty much thought that Romskland would be the last landmass that will ever exist, any more than it would drown USAU. I was basically wrong. And I actually saw more landmasses on the way. Neapolitania would actually later make the fusion of the Southern Federation. 45 would soon appear so that Winalania would make a union with them. And some other cramming stuff that actually exists. Romskland randomly emerges out of nowhere, probably because no one has explored this region, and is used as a boost to sink USAU, or at least the colonies. And that's how the dependency of Seawall got its shape. Well, almost. But Romskland pretty much didn't agree to this term. But neither did USAU. So, the United States of America realizes that Romskland is a happy neutral country, but Romskland and USAU feel closer together, and you all get squashed between Romskland and USAU. Alhenia gets destroyed along with some of you else. Some islands stop disappearing rapidly, but this island still exists for some reason, but it will not survive long. And that's where USAU evolved shape, and that shape. It got squished to this area, right over here. And that's where it got its current shape and form. Romskland. And USAU's waves are so powerful that USAU got flat over here or near the Remixes Island and Romskland. At that time, it was pretty possible that you would walk from this island to this island. But then came 110. And so, realizing that Romskland had the land that was theirs way back in the year 76, and that they forgot that they existed, some Irelanders had made attempts to colonize their former land. They also did some colonizing in the oceans, in inspiration to their former oppressor, the United States of Balkanization, enlisted Operation Underseas. Pretty much ocean colonization is taking flight. Who knows what will happen to the United States of America at this point. The only problem is that pretty much this was drawn by a cartographer named Nelly. No, seriously, that's basically his name. The last names get a little glitchy, but not as glitchy as the usual glitch Zarquonian. And I mean, it's pretty surprising that Zarquonia still exists after many years. Because I want there to be an independent country in the continent of Sphek. I mean, Jabania basically he lost territory, and soon the Watchful Kingdom would probably become independent. I mean, it's the last ever country to be here in the pre-remix in the pre-years of Zarquon Prime. But there's not much I can really say about this. Yes. So yeah, sea colony error exists now, and you can easily walk to it. Uranus lands. Suddenly, Romskland, and with all its power and sentience, is apparently sentient and can invade Ireland, Ulysses, and all the other lands. The Zarquonian boat, an Alhenian boat was missing. The boat is already put onto land. USAU still exists. The Fresharians are basically calling on the land to expand. Most of the refugees have gone to Alhenia and other lands, which is in an alternate timeline, to say the least. There are clones 112s over here. I bet two of those 112s will probably be colonized by the glitched Arcadian. Ah. So yeah. It turns out that Romskland growing was a fake, but meanwhile the ice melts and the boats are gone. Which was basically another failure. The United States of America can't actually make ice freeze permanently. It suddenly melts and gets contrasted. So yeah. Basically Ireland still exists. And but luckily Big Land didn't notice it. The areas you saw are basically going to be future countries. Okay, so you claim to have actually seen that there are different single countries in this area. Well, if there are basically except for Ireland. You basically claim that Ireland. Yeah, I expected for this one to happen. As you can see, I currently don't have available speech in the process. It's hard to process. Okay, so the insult will probably come up soon. Okay, so where was I? Ah, yes. So you want Romskland. So you pretty much saw that there are countries in this continent. And you think that basically these countries that exist in this continent, right? First of all, shut the up. And second of all, they will come soon. They're probably going to have an important role. I know that they don't exist yet, but we're probably going to get there soon enough. There are many short-lived countries that some of them I don't even know yet. Scientists found the planet's location on a map by seeing clues and connecting dots. Also, USAU declares ceasefire with USAU and declares that USAU is a sovereign nation and that no one can own the oceans. But the United States of America plans to attack and capture the concept of Balkanization nonetheless. They're pretty much still salty about wanting to colonize the country. Way back then, basically, see Zarquon is basically in the circles. They theorize that Zarquon is basically, a solar system. So, this 113. Although this year it was never canon. Science found planet. Well, USAU was canon is that USAU declares ceasefire USAU and declares that USAU is a sovereign nation and that no one can own the oceans. But USAU plans to attack and capturing the continent of Alhenia. The actual news that scientists found is that badgers can easily walk on all fours, and that basically, and that by scientific fix, you can't put a Sphek in the middle of the entire road. And then I wanted there to probably be a solar system. So I created some extra planets. So I created temperature land to allude it to Mercury, and then I created Dalachia to basically make it a twin sister to Zarquon Prime. And I basically created 7 planets. I didn't add an 8th one, but someone's probably going to add one as well. Dalachia is basically crazy. Zarquon Prime was basically an AI generated name by ChatGPT back when people actually loved AI for some reason and had a craze for ChatGPT. I also created a triangle and a square land because I wanted these to exist besides circle land. Circle land was created by some person. The land beyond the edge was an extraordinary planet that can only be colonized by the eligible colonizers. And they want this land to actually be colonized by the entire Pesks. They don't want this land to be colonized by Pesks. You can only colonize the dot. In fact, this colonizing was supposed to be so legendary that no one can catch it. Also, this background is basically generated by Dolly 2. We just called the sun for some reasons. Oh yeah, and basically there's not much to say about this, so let's just except they actually exploit the solar system. And then the sentient Romskland and continent decides to go into space, making an alternate reality where nothing goes wrong. They really tried to be separate from the solar system that I alone actually created, and some people. But someone just went and had to make an alternate universe. Nowadays, basically, Hot Crystal and I have already been and making up most of the remix chain, and so far. So yeah. The planet didn't have a name at the time. Most never actually knew that this name even existed. But back on this unknown planet, the rebels win and occupy huge amounts of Rakistan. Soviet Rakistan still exists for some reason. This is the converging point between Japan in the Rush Rebel Kingdom not existing, and basically with the nations of Romskland, and basically this is the point between Uranus lands owning a bit of that island over there, and the Romskland continent being divided into sections. Oh yeah, and Delania, and some part was owned by Jabania that one time, and Delania is still the continent back then. Uranium land gained independence from the Uranus lands, and somehow is very different from on the Uranus lands. It's debated if it were ever a country or a colony, but Jabania exists. Oh yeah, and then I had to basically type it in actual words. USAU, feeling bad about the country-continent debate, decided to create a planet also which was supported by Space Alhin, who was working on providing space transport. Meanwhile, coral spread to a gapped part. Basically, the southern coral had to hedge. USAU was feeling sorry for Romskland about what they did, so to make up for it, they decided to create a planet for coexistence measures. Its planet is basically a little smaller than the Rom planet, but somehow that actually had to do for some reason. Yeah. Then there's Remix 118. Basically, my phone is dying, so I need charger bait. This should probably do the trick. Yeah, this is doing the trick already. Joey and Bigland has sent 3 next to Usum, so they actually know the exact location. I already know that the United States of Matter basically it doesn't have an official landmass to live in. Way back when the landmass was created, it was basically here, and they decided to actually find here to screw the United States of Alhinia and USAU over. By then, these two wanted to invade this piece. After all, Jabania and Bigla, and the nations that he owns. So they decided to abuse this little piece of land, and because they had to freeze a part of USAU. The United States of Albania and Ulysses declares the ceasefire and gives the United States of Matter a capital city, a capital building, and some United States of Albania and Ulysses buildings so that diplomatic missions would be made in the future. They picked the spot right over here since this land is technically land. They technically own a continent over here. So canonically, this is their official land, and they don't control the ocean. But since this land since this land is actual, since the United States of America's official land is actually ocean, this might actually be the capital. And then Remix 120 created. These two simply don't care. These two simply don't care because they wanted the United States of America out. And Erla is probably supporting these two for attacking USM, but meanwhile, an alternate timeline. A random asteroid appears, say a volcano in the planet they coexist, so it gets destroyed. Not too needy. Back on Zarquon, Romskland's President Maxwell Bedrock goes to work on Romp's protective shield. This was pretty much an alternate timeline. So yeah. Uranus colonizes parts of Romskland because they're basically nearby to it. Also, the Marinians appear out of nowhere, right over here in that land. These guys would soon actually form on the basis of the southern Romskland and interbreds, and then spread up to North and South Teleskia to make separate countries. The Irelanders try to resettle all this land. Also, the United States of Albania and USAU tries to stay out of this one, and saying that colonizing would kill the people. Well, a study that there are natives on this continent, only at the south. They don't inhabit the entire continent. There's barely any population in these lands, but they're still inhabited lands, and nonetheless. Yes. The scientists also say that the Marinians came from an alternate universe that the Zarquonians have made, while some officials actually say that they just brought it back. It's kind of like the history of the CGI pals. Since basically Disney actually owns the show Two More Eggs, and to be specific, I was talking about that CGI pals episode, The Bedtime, I've already had to say that for some reason. Somehow, Disney will probably soon copyright this. For that, I'm going to be drawing 2 eggs. 1 and 2. I've drawn 2 eggs. I hope one's a girl. Oh no! Someone cried! Oh! Ah! Okay, so we are back. Crazy acting, eh? Well, to be specific, this is basically the project that they are talking about. It is hard to pretty much do anything when we have that farming clicker on. If I try to damage any important artifacts, then I'll just be controlled and it'll be too late for me. Okay, so this is the project. Okay, you can shop now. Oh. This is the project where they thought they would come from. But pretty much everything is as corrupted as anything. And that's where the stage 10 projects come from. The corrupted Jabinjal. This island gets corrupted, and the Marinians become Marinian hacks, and there is no hope. The E turns into a schwa. There's nothing left. I have to accept this there to the Oblivions. I'm not going to probably mix their hellish on their home. Basically, there's not much claims. There are many claims as to where the Marinians have came from. The Zarquons appear on every alternate timeline, no matter how far you actually search. Even that timeline where Zarquon never wanted to gain independence. But they stopped doing things. Yeah. Okay, so my dad's currently calling at the time that I'm recording this video, and my phone was on low battery, so I had to use a charger for a school computer since they have the universal pad for some reason. Thanks. Shout out to my school computer for using this. I usually replace the school computer every high school for some reason. So yeah. And this is the moment where the music changes.
You are getting the Rolling Sky Candyland low quality music as a prank, and that is the capital final.
WSK, he finally gains independence again. And this time it's as it was. Monolandia basically still. And there would go on to exist for many years more until their incoming downfall. The land would basically maybe be owned by Big Land or Winalania. I basically decided to let the United States of Matter actually own this one, because the United States of Matter basically needs a capital. The United States of Matter is basically, or homeland, is basically not actual land, but actual ocean. The music has changed because being noticeable in the Alheni regions. Speaking of which, the United States of Alheni and the South links the bridge to the Uranian lands, which will improve trade in the future, while the United States of Matter gets its capital district back. Jabania annexes Munilandia. The Romskland fresh air to make contact with the Romsklandians and the Airlanders. Only two out of the three will actually make the combined country. Yeah. There are no bridges here or left. And even though the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses are basically connected to the Uranus line, they're probably not going to have anything else in the future. So yeah. And so the Washable Kingdom actually colonized Monolandia and the top point. Jabania is getting attacked by Rakistan and the rebels. And Washable Kingdom, this could be the hardest war in Jabanian history. The historical area of Palestine is once again uncolonized. East. Whoa! Oh, nothing's changing in the eastern region. There's nothing. Oh, it's Zolan. The state of Linia has been recently discovered. Basically, simply referring to this rock over here. It was not here when it was discovered, but apparently that was the name of Winalinia's colony. And then the Erlang colonies tried to give the Marinians guns and supports the colonization of Romskland, which scientists have said that was a sentient continent that claims it was a country. The aliens from Zarquon starts to form an empire because they've been neglected by people for many years. Yeah, they're trying to pretty much modernize. Well, there's a difference between civilization and colonization. And the Irelanders are trying to civilize the Roms. The Irelanders are trying to civilize the Maronians because they want because the Maronians have basically been the origin of every single country, and they want Romskland to actually have that origin as well. The Romskland and Fresherians were supposed to be civilized because they wanted the Romskarians to be civilized, and that they were there. But there's something about a Fresherian that nobody will ever agree on. The Fresherian the Fresherian literally monitors the sentient continent. They worship the sentient continent so much that they act like those people from Camazotz. The Wrinkle in Time book, to be precise. I'm specifically talking about that 2018 movie, but nobody ever cares about that movie. But the Maronians are here to snap those Fresherians out. And thank goodness they're about to. 64 times 2 is 128. Most of the users start to make crazy old, funny multiplying jokes to make sure that they identify a country. Jabania is almost done for. Meanwhile, Uranium Land split a colony of Arcadia with Circle Empire, hoping to establish relations with the aliens. Yeah, basically, the Circular Empire is starting to take shape and annexes the territory is near Coral. There was once a statement that the countries of Coral, South Coral, and the Northern Coral Federation were made by Maronians and Fresherians who really wanted to colonize this non-country, which is technically considered to be a no-man zone and only used for nature purposes. When it was actually those Coral who wanted independence from the Maronians and Fresherians who existed. And that was when the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses created a buffer zone to protect Jabania from the Washable Kingdom. I usually call all the abbreviation for USAU for short, or of the United States of Alhenia and USAU. But since they lost this island, it's pretty much considered an artifact to all the populace. I mean, Jabania has been pretty much a country of Sphek for a long time, and seeing it return to the island is basically pretty crazy. I mean, the rebels have already conquered the entirety of Rakistan. But some of Rakistan, yeah. And then we extended the buffer zone to here, because we never want Jabania to lose the territories. Jabania takes back some of its own land. Do that is how they create more buffer zones, which made the Washable Kingdom a little smaller, but not that small yet. Yeah. And then the Romskarian Fresherians and the Maronians interbred, making the interbreeds. Meanwhile, Ireland finally establishes itself and becomes a country. The sentient continent of Romskland finally stopped being sentient, and the Romskland Fresherians had to figure out what to do now. While their guide to the sentient continent is gone, the United States of America discovers that they somehow became a country and used their opportunity to establish their culture, traits, identity, status, history, language, and most importantly, their national pride. The Romskarian Fresherians and the Maronian Freshland, there's a species called the interbreed. A subgroup that will later dominate this entire area and create a country called the Southern Roms Federation, which would which is probably a hellish blow on the Romskland. It's sentient. Romsk is now a sentient planet, which is pretty crazy. Ireland is finally a country thanks to the resettlement of many Irelanders. It was the trail of cheers for many, because they settled on new land, a land that they could call their home. They oppressed many Romskarians, and if they didn't like their culture, well, USAU basically stayed in this position for the rest of the entire timeline. Yeah. It wasn't the same position as it was before, but it wasn't much of a deal anyway. And then, the Treaty of Makarium. WSK will gain all occupied land. A communist government will replace the old Pakistani government. West Jabania will be formed as a buffer state between Jabania and Soviet Pakistan. And Jabania pays reparations. But nobody has ever claimed the territory of High Zarquon. Yet, West Albania was a buffer state between these two. Yeah, there's not much I can easily say about this. But there's not much I can easily say about this because I'm not 200 yet. But yet, I'm still happy for what I've actually had to do now, since there's not much. Makarium is basically a place not actually made anywhere at all. Let's get this construction out of here, okay? Yeah. And then the music went back to normal on 123. West Albania becomes the puppet state of Arcadia, a Soviet country under the influence of the first ever country to be here on Sphek. It was pretty crazy that this actually happened. The Alhanat were slowly being eradicated from their culture. They simply didn't want to be influenced by the big lenders. Jabania and culture and big lender culture are basically no different than each other, as far as an Alhanian Maronian can tell. But an Alhanat Maronian can easily see that these two are completely different and totally not the same. It's pretty weird how West Albania can easily be like this. And then Korea coexists in territory. The High Zarquon coexists in territory established by the United States of America and the United States of Albania and Ulysses after settling out their differences from the past. And it was their first ever It was the United States of America's first ever colony. They got the dependency of Seaball and the dependency of area back. So, what was left of Operation Overseas, aka the Rule the Waves. USAU is basically a country for some reason. So yeah, High Zarquon. It was made so that Jabanians, Fasharians, Marinians, Darkators, Alanians, Windjalanians, Washers, Irani, Alhanians, Erlanders, Big Lenders, AU Darkators, Circles, Interbreeds, and yes, even solids, liquid, gases, and plasma that have gained sentimentalness can live together in peace and harmony, and that coral can grow everywhere. The coral demanded to have civil rights in them. They really hated to be dehumanized. The coral really hated to be dehumanized because the Marinians stated that the Marinian and the coral are basically similar in every way. While the Marinians just suggest that their brains are similar to the Marinians. It's crazy that this ever happened. But the United States of Albania and Ulysses are basically becoming a powerhouse, and is becoming multiple at the same time. While USAU and USM are intending that High Zarquon be a melting pot of cultures instead. Yeah, that's not much to say for this. The reason why Ireland wasn't brought into the mix of the interbred is that basically their borders are pretty secure, and there's nothing they need to worry about that. And then there's 135. Nothing actually happened except for that high Zarquon was invaded by Soviet Rakistan, which is pretty crazy that this happened. And then they created an empire. The aliens stopped being invaded, and then they conquer most of the stuff. Ireland is still all about Lithuania. Jabania conquers the Watchful Kingdom. Soviet Rakistan invades Zarquon and made lots of people living here escape their cave for comfort. The causes of Turkey someone but annexed by the Soviet Republic any of them don't plan. The international community goes on to war against Soviet Rakistan, while Jabania gets the popcorn and watches the hellish war suffer. Most of the refugees sit here on Turkey and soil camps, ready to be dumped back to their homelands. Jabania is always it's kind of like that guy who likes to cheat in those remix chains, wanting to pretty much kill top of these chains and basically slicing the checkerboards and put one near you and saying, "Checkmate, I win, haha, lol." Oh, the Watchful Kingdom, East Jabania, and basically South Jabania are basically independent and right now. This country still exists. Basically. This country went on to not exist, and this country went on to pretty much exist this country went on to exist until today. A remnant of the overwhelmation of West Jabania's basic coalition need to actually expand. The island of Torvok went on to become a country for some reason. It's pretty weird that basically remix chains happen sometimes. Oh, and the Uranus is actually gained an island over here. And then I asked the question into Jabania. Stop deleting High Zarquon? USAU and its allies try to liberate High Zarquon because it's a territory where everyone can get along. Meanwhile, Jabania has the idea that Watchful Kingdom is theirs and will probably take the whole country by Remix 139. West Jabania basically actually appropriated the country of Rakistan, actually had to steal. Jaden 67810 actually stole all the concept of Rakistan from a user that I somehow don't have the name of anymore due to a memory blindness, and decided to basically revive the Republic because it's supposed to be an area where everyone can be in when their homes are torn. An intended promised land to be precise. And then this will happen. The WSK invades that one island that basically will soon gain independence. A bridge was basically destroyed. Most of the last ones were captured. East Jabania was basically about to be next. Lithuania owns the island for some reason. Due to too much wars at once, Zarquon Prime World War III has begun, and the core WSK war thing was destroyed by a missile launched by WJY, launched by West Jabania. And then all heck broke loose. Now with nukes. West Jabania was nuking Arcadia, nukes on Romskland, or nuking each other with Nanyang and Erla, and with nuking these guys are really fighting each other as usual. Oh, and these guys are fighting each other as usual, and these guys are fighting each other as usual. And then they created the first tree of Jabania. The communist government will replace the old government without them. A, which either. This all will create buffer zones to prevent any GI is more each other. No GI and no GI will attack each other. The war ended just like that. Also, Japan took over a large amount of scale. And South Japan became communist. There was another war over big land. Let's see. It basically made another attack. They'll have another attack moved by 9:50 in AM, and there will soon be another attack at 9:15 in AM by June. The Uranus lands colonized a bit of Romskland. The WSK only hold them. Holds the main part of the island. It was lit back when various steps were made so that the coral reefs could be protected. By building the bridge, they created a safe haven for the coral to survive, even in cold conditions. Obviously, the corals didn't want this for some reason. Yeah. This is what was left of them. Had their crown plan. But they'll regain their territory soon. They promise that there's not even going to be a territory. At least. Yeah. Good. I misunderstood Hot Crystal's saying. But I kind of misunderstood Hot Crystal was saying. He said that coral inhabit the country of Coral. But basically, he had to restate it that ethnic Marines and Romskarians inhabited this country. But I already took that one by heart. I just wanted to keep the title that Coral is not a country, just species. I was supposed to keep them as just species with no overpopulation. But whatever, here's how it happens next. Actually, Coral is both a country and a species. Hot Crystals likes to say that Coral is a country. I just wanted to make the first ever continent its island landmass thing that does not have a native population, and basically is basically not a sovereign state. Yeah, nothing much, but that's just how it is. And then we go to 11 times 13, which is 143, which comes before the square 144. The Corals have officially confirmed that they are a country. Meanwhile, the Uranus lands expand further onto Romskland. Oh boy, they're probably going to take over most of these things next. Wowee! Yeah, there's not much that I can easily do. These two hate each other and are officially. They were officially on war with each other, but they didn't fight. Albania still controls these lands, but yeah. Okay, so we've reached the core. The Corals are officially organized as a country and have been apologized by the other countries. The Knights and Mara accept the fact about them because they've known them for many years. So they create the Bipolar Federation of Coral, a country that's both at the North and South Poles. Well, the Washable Kingdom has been the first to do so. Well, obviously, since they're royalty and they can do just what they want. I mean, possibly. And then Soviet Rakistan collapsed, and West Javania, and someone's West Javania too. But the Washable Kingdom of Coral got the collapse of West Javania and land. Which, basically, they had to. It was crazy that they got in these lands. There were two islands. They split them with each other. The Bipolar Federation of Coral got their bridge back, and the Bipolar Federation of Coral, well, basically still exists. Wasn't this supposed to be encouraged? and on these pieces of shit over here. I want to have some satisfaction with my life, okay? Zarquon retakes most of the Soviet Pakistan, displacing the population, and now moving to Arcadia, West Albania, embracing the liberation of all High Zarquon. The ice caps of Zarquon Prime want to succeed by joining the United States of matter. But United States matter return on the offer because that's just how nature is. A separatist movement is taking place in the sea vault. Yeah, the ice. There was that one time that the ice caps wanted to join the United States of matter. They were never They are not technically countries, but that topic was still up for debate. The liberation of Seapol is basically success is movement to actually liberate their country from the continent of USAU. This Tesla has Crimea collapsed, and Alania and the Washable Kingdom split the land. Also, a new island north of the South Pole has been discovered. It's unclear. The South Pole and the North. There was at one time that the South Pole was the North Pole and the North Pole was the South Pole. It's pretty weird once you even see that. It's probably kind of like the pretty much upside down world maps that you have to see. I mean, way back then, the Arab world depict themselves as the superior civilizations, and the Europeans depict themselves as the superiors. So the world map would have. So when the Europeans had to draw their world map, they drew it like this. You know, the typical world map after the Europeans colonized the world, and basically, they were basically the top civilizations, as you can see on the world map, because they're basically at the 1% of the world map, and they basically colonized the entire world. I don't want to get into politics. While the Arab world influenced most of the trade of Islam, the Islamic people actually made themselves the center of the world and made themselves on top of Europe. The Islamic people actually traded with Europe at the time, until the Seljuks came and blockaded the Europeans, because they actually saw that Christians don't even, and it's pretty much are pretty much too dumb to actually trade with them. The Europeans had to prove them wrong by literally forcing everyone to think that they're doing it wrong. It was too much to ask, basically. Antarctica's basically become Arctica on this one, but it's already fixed. We don't have to just swap out north of south and south of north. Australia actually agrees with this because it doesn't have to be this way to them. It's probably going to be like this for some reason. This island will eventually be claimed by the Bipolar Federation of Coral. And we ran out of time. And unfortunately we ran out of time. But due to basically saying that this would be 101 to 200, we're probably not going to stop at the 1 hour mark. No, we're probably going to stop at the 2 hour or maybe 3 hour mark. The time would be more extended than the other. And then basically, Coral annexed the new island. Meanwhile, the Seabelt Liberation Army is trying to annex the whole region. And the Bipolar Federation of Coral annexed just this island, while the Liberation Army is trying to annex the whole region. There is not much about these guys at this. There is not much going on happening in the countries, except the coexistence territory of High Zarquon is actually doing well. And the unthinkable happened. Romskland creates an unbreakable border around Romskverse, so no one can make other planets except people from Romskland. This was a separate universe. This solar system was basically an alternate This one was basically a sub-universe, and was never an actual universe. It was basically a little bit of a block away from that solar system. The two planets orbited around on the sun and the shield. Which is basically strange, but that's how it is. The Washable Kingdom invades Romskland, and the communist rebels aided by a Washable Kingdom exists. The new mechanic is Defcon. The Roms communists are basically aided by Washable Kingdom to make sure that they win. And since the Roms communists and the Washable Kingdom are basically allies fighting against the United States of Valhalla and Lucis later on in the current timeline, this makes some incredible fridge balance. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see that. I mean, the oceans of Usum territory and the Usum dependencies and the Usum capitals direct. This was basically inspired by the map color keys that have these things. I added capitals and cities in because they were lacking those. And it was inspired by the Almanac, the National Geographic Kids Almanac, where they had the past United Kingdoms. In fact, I have one right now, but just not gonna show it to you, unfortunately. My hallucinations are probably going to actually be crazy about this. Moving on. And even though I can easily say this, the new mechanic is basically Defcon. And it was added by Windows Infinity 2K1. It randomly appeared here. Defcon is basically an alert state used by the United States Armed Forces. It was basically used used by USAU for some reason. It's broken, but it's currently in war. It's just like this. Weird. And then Romskland destroys the Washable Kingdom and puts a force field around itself so nothing can get into Romskland. The Roms communists are invaded, the Enterprise, and basically the Marine Romskland are taken with the Romskland Grand Fasharians and the Interbred. Some of the Romskland colonies are basically declining for some reason. And then Neptune gains independence briefly until being conquered by the Uranuslands. And the Washable Kingdom rebuilt the erect land and erects the force field. And the Western Japanese sets up buffer zones. Hold on to it. It's basically the first time that they actually agreed to actually work together for some reason. West Japan had potential to actually become a superpower for some reason. It's very rare that this actually happened after all. This one later on to become the most well-known wall on this entire remix chain. And then basically the Roms become a country, and they also decide to go Circle Land, to claim in land that was claimed by Japania, which is no longer claimed to say the least. It's like the Roms Soviet Federation, and somehow now exists for some reason, and they go to the planet. USAU, Knights of Valhalla, and Ulysses as United States that matter Zarcadia, the coexistence territory of Zarquon, the bipolar federation of Coral, and basically, and those the guys that were created by me. Only the Uranus lands and Errol and were created by Herstal, Bigla, and Jabania were created by a boy. Javel was created some that was created by Jolly, but his name feud is now just pretty much somehow here. Winley was created by a random user. The territory was created by Ania. Ania is basically created by a random user. Circle exists for some reason, and Romskland was created by an impatient user. Yeah, nobody. He just cares about the aliens nowadays. And then Elena decides to go for a colony in Circleland. And steals Albania's land. They would soon have war with each other or together. They would soon enter an island for many years to come. And the remix shows that they still have the island by 451. That makes them pretty good fridge balance, to say the least. And then 2 new small landmasses were discovered on Circleland, and including the first non-cyclical oval piece of land. And it was basically where that they discovered this, but they discovered this. Those two lands not exist for some reason. The Tree of Romskland. The Watchful Kingdom gains all of the occupied lands, and the Romskland Federation will install the Watchful Kingdom in government. It's basically politics, but in the form of Remixes. And will basically aim to actually be a more known than the other Remixes combined by the end of 2023, or basically the beginning of 2024, or basically after I go to college. Yeah. And then another remixer goes along. The Tree of Romskland basically exists for some reason, and decides to probably do nothing but create Vom, which somehow exists for some reason. Let me check. Wait. Let me check. I think if this actually exists. Yeah, Yep, I know it. I knew it. Vom was the only planet. Vom was the only planet to be made by someone else. And it was the only planet to have a moon. It was called the Rock Crate. Yeah. Seabald and Aria are now independent territories, which is lucky for Seabaldian rebels and the string. And then the Washable Kingdom colonizes and buys some land from neighbors, and new solar systems discovered, or 2. And now the Washable Kingdom is longer than size. The Washable Kingdom also owns some territory over here. And another solar system exists. Lama was then terraformed It never bothered the aliens, though. Zarquon was the first country to colonize this region. And then DEFCON is not 4, and it's basically a countdown. Meanwhile, Seabalt becomes an internationally recognized territory, while USAU is unrecognized. Which somehow sucks for other countries, since the Seabalt wanted independence, and they won it fair and square, while USAU still had a lot to learn. Oh yeah, I realized that we've already been pausing over here, and the Romsklands joined Zarquon on the new planet. As you can see, they have territory right near Zarquon, so that they would actually meet. East Albania's government currently doesn't know that South Albania exists, which is a fact. Fact. On the way, they met two native countries named Parani and Talastopa. Their capitals would later on be brought from the Berber languages and the languages that are in Canada. Besides, I'm basically culture blind, but at least I know how culture goes. I know how it goes in game. If there's basically one thing that a country is known for, it's not by the colonist effort, but by its natural way of life. That's just how it is in this world. High Zarquon is a melting pot, and USAU is also a melting pot. The United States of Albania and Ulysses is a more acceptable melting pot than High Zarquon, I'd say at least. And then we go to 224. The first watchable Kingdom Civil War has started, and there might be more, or this might be the only one. The Republic of Watchability, he had to fight for its independence from the Watchable Kingdom. Did you know that this area over there is actually not actual land from Romskland continent? Yeah, this was the leftover land from the Watchable Kingdom's continent before it disappeared into thick nothingness. The first Watchable Kingdom War has started. There might be more, or this might be the only one left. And now there's basically not much to do. People have finally saw what Patrolling looks like, thanks to USAU's telescopes that were made by Space Alhead. They're pretty crazy. And to be crazy, it's all degrees of Celsius, Fahrenheit, and Kelvin. That dumb piece of that always has to basically be running everything. Fahrenheit is basically not an actual a little bit right here for the zero, but Kelvin is basically a unimportant, while Celsius and Fahrenheit have been digging out for many years. And there are also some other temperature units, but who cares? In fact, Kelvin shouldn't be here. Or at least, because it's already becoming one of these things. The moon and the sun. The land is basically the sun and the star and snowflake. Yeah, it's basically a temperature land. It's the land of temperature. Just like Circle Land, Triangle Land, and Square Land. And Zarquon Prime. And according to Hot Crystal, all other planets are uninhabitable. Valm and Dalahia will be colonized possibly in the future. Triangle Land will contain triangles. Square Land will contain squares. The 8th planet in Zarquon's solar system is actually beyond the edge of the solar system and is uncolonizable in this point. Whoever manages to colonize it will go Type 3 civilization and dominate the entire solar system. But if the DEFCON counter goes to 0 and 1 year in human year is tasked. But it will not be easier though. Triangle Land has triangles and Square Land has squares. Also, please remix. Next. But he said they'll be colonized, but they are currently uninhabitable, especially the planet beyond the edge. And whoever colonizes it first will ultimately become type 50 civilization. But you cannot cheat. Okay. Yeah, but the ones after Zarquon don't have bar except for form of ice. Instead, scroll and triangle and have pieces of ice in the shape of squares and triangles and dirt. It's green or pink stuff everywhere else. Please remix. I just remixed lol. It was a constant conversation that I had. Also, Hot Crystal, if you're watching this, why the heck aren't you exploring Triangle and Squirrel Land? And then on to 166. The rebels take more of Eastern Washable Kingdom, which the Washable Kingdom doesn't like. So the United States of Albania and USAU actually he sees this and want to know. The two rovers were sent to Squirrel and Triangle Land, respectively, once again made by Space Alien. They're used to find out what material the green and pink stuff were made of. Meanwhile, all the United States of America attempts to do a space colony on temperature land to promote panmatterism. This is their colony. We thought the rebels take even more of that part of Washable Kingdom. And there is one, Remix 169, which I labeled 13 times 13. Space Outland finds another planet that's near Marta. And it's called Yazera because I had an affinity of pretty much on beyond zero. I had to dedicate this planet to a ladder, which and do you know what a planet this year? And you know what takes place in this planet, right? Yep, it was this series, which was basically it contributed by Dragon99 before he actually left this series. Just like the United States of America wordplay, trying to actually distance itself from Remix Chain, Number 9, The Return, is also trying to distance itself from Remix Chain, and trying to join in with the Number Blocks universe. In fact, most of the people that actually care about me, all care about number blocks. Meanwhile, the continent of Romskland, in all of its power and dignity, establishes a buffer zone unto itself, due to it being paranoid, broken, needy, and in pain. Romskland is basically an exception because the continent is sentient, and the Romskrasharians actually see them as their god. Odd. Unlike the god which I practice. Jesus is my heart and soul. And then there's the unlucky Italian number times 10. The Washable Kingdom just crushes the rebels somehow. Because Windows Infinity 2K1 doesn't want Washable Kingdom to ever crumble. And then USAU tries to actually support the rebels who have recently been crushed. Some of the rebels that were here on WSK's Washable Kingdom reforms actually wanted to go down south to try to bring an end to rule on the Romskland area. USAU suddenly supports its rebels, curious to see what they want to do. But unfortunately, the Washable Kingdom arrests the rebels, supported by USAU, just in case they are pro-Russian Indian. I mean, it's pretty sensical since they are pretty much near to Jabania. Nobody's even discovered what's between these two continents yet. And then USAU once decides to occupy a part of Washable Kingdom, but once realizing that they are pro-West Jabania, they are determined to see what the war that will happen, so they colonize most of the Washable Kingdom and make sure that this never happens again. This would later change the relationships of on the Washable Kingdom and the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses. Saying the United States of Alhenia and USAU is basically like saying the United States of Alhenia and the United States of Alhenia and the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses. It's pretty weird to actually say that. Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is. And then there's basically this. The part Washable Kingdom on Romskland has declared independence. The other country with the Washable Kingdom do not attack each other. The Washable Kingdom briefly claimed this republic, but would also be repelled by the United States of Alhenia and Ulysses. Yeah, somehow the Romskland buffer zone actually did little to protect itself from foreign retrievers, as there would soon be countries in this area. And then the interbreds fully interbred each other. USAU starts a pact with the Republic of Washability, and it becomes a peaceful to the Washable Kingdom. Meanwhile, Space Island decides to use his ally to observe the alternate Romsk universe, bypassing the shield, trying to see if any wars or uncolonized space are there. Oh, and also the Marinians and the Fresharians have now interbred. Little did the probe know that this planet, it somehow was a peaceful planet, thanks to the all-seeing, almighty Romsk God. The Romskland buffer zone was basically yeah. The United States of Alhenia and Ulysses become star pact with the Republic of Washability. Meanwhile, some of the Marinians and the Fresharians go more north. Also, Alhenia took back its mainland. This is basically in parallel to way back what, and Alhenia was formed. The reason why Remix 2 was here is because the Marinians go way more north. Earth. Jetha, there you go. The Marinians go more norther. And the Marinians of Fresharians and also go more north. Right there. And somehow there's this weird thing. I had to repurpose it as wet Marinians because they exist for some reason. And so the Romskland border doesn't exist anymore. And was broken. And the Fresharians went on to occupy most of the entire continent, so that the Marinian Romskland ended up with the continent being of Romskland and not being sentient anymore due to the buffer zone had being depleted. The Fresharians occupy what was left of the continent of Romskland because they viewed that sentient continent as their god. They also migrated to Romp, where nothing ever goes wrong. All this happened, the Marinians were able to hold the land that was not occupied by them. They'll soon war against each other. The interbreeds don't care, and basically they start to just roam around on the sand, while the Irelanders actually close the border against them. Nothing much has changed, except for these guys have all taken refuge in Rom. And now we go to the bottom of me, where there was no change, except West Japanese actually claims this area. And this area is unclaimed now, for some reason. Yeah, that's the Alana and the Allen Islands exist. And then I will remix tomorrow. So any remix that you will make will not can't be canon. Even if I remix today. Oh, you like that? North South Island? Yeah, I'm doing one at 83 mix. This was we're going to Romskland and not Lisa anymore. Blah blah blah. The wrong fisher and still occupy most of the land. The race was never that made, so they had to. Oh crap! I forgot. I did a little intro for this planet because it's 1 year anniversary of this planet. It's been 1 year since we first met this planet. To celebrate the planet that began on the edge of the solar system is going to be colonizable. Whoever managed to colonize it, it will go Type 3 civilization and dominate the entire solar system. But there can only be one who dominates. The red area is uncolonizable, but the light gray pathways can be colonized. Only one per country. Whoever reaches the first will win the title. The loser will also exist. That winner turned out to be the aliens, and since no other country had to participate in the game. The United States of Matter are in temperature land. And the South, and the aliens are. I was right, but the aliens are in the lead. This will be a win worth dying for. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. And then number 81. A pandemic of a disease. The first vegetarians failed to become immune to wiped out a large portion of the people. And the other species are all immune to it. Yeah. Just because that the sentient continent doesn't have any people living on there, and does have its own language, doesn't mean that there are species living here. This is just the human population, not the other population. Thoughts for sharing an exclave would soon become a reserve, which gives it more luck to which gives the Marine Romsklands more luck to end trust this entire region. This chapter is basically the Romskland chapter. The Maronians take advantage of this and suppress the Fresharian population by going up the continent. Meanwhile, it's anyone's game as the countries are preparing for colonialism, which means the great space race is ramping up. Kurosawa is trying to basically be like this, and basically are trying to honestly go for these things. Yeah, so far there are only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 countries that are in Romskland, and 1, 2, 3, 8 ethnic groups that stateless peoples that don't have a group, have an area. Oh, and by the way, this thing got owned by the Washable Kingdom again. North Island and South Islands are basically in between West Jabania and East Jabania, and the Bipolar Federation of Coral. They could swim from these islands to Melania. But yeah, that's the problem. And Arcadia and the Romsklands expand on Lamar. Arda. It's very rare that they're doing this. Nobody ever cares about the Great Beyond anyway. Yeah, basically. And and the aliens are heading out to lands of other shapes, from the USAU to Tall Space Islands to leap ahead. Meanwhile, a new species of Marines are found. The scientists are named the Marines, and the Romskland Federation found them near the border, so they give autonomy to excellent the ethnicity. All Errol, and still I'll keep their country. The Romskland Federation allowed Ireland to keep its land, while they gave them autonomous territory. The Marines an autonomous prefecture for them. Such was life in the Romskland continent. Oh, yeah. The islands are hanging out to lands of other shapes, prompting you. Same description. People forget to just talk. Oh, not shell it. The islands are trying to leave ahead. And the chess pieces are not even doing anything. The Resistance didn't actually care about it, but whatever. And when Alenia finally gets a bridge, it has its own division, and having Cyrillic letters in the alphabet, which somehow has its own Alhen. And it's crazy since Winterland was actually the first to actually do its divisions, and USAU was the second to actually do divisions, but was the first to actually submit everything about itself. And just for saying this, Alha is capital at the center of this. And basically, they have pretty much good divisions, unlike those divisions which are Cyrillic and are not memorable. These divisions are pretty crazy. They have Lucia, which was basically just an artifact anyway, so I never cared about it. Agavari, Nerleti, Mesigno, Torvete, Ahanat, which is basically a separatist region owned by Grafania, Chiskolia, Slipati, Titania, Taver, and the central Ahanian district, which has the capital. It's all a shift. The statistics show the ethnic groups of the Ahanians. The reality Arcadians are basically numerous, and this is not the entire population. Yeah. And they also have colonies in Zarquon and the Moon's element, which is weird. This was the earliest mechanics. A Marine's facial structure was supposed to be different from the humans, but instead, I had to get somewhere to. And I had to naturalize the Marine. That's weird. And they changed the map orientation to comply on South Poles, but then again, nothing actually matters because there's room exchange. Everything was rotate at once. And then due to the pole swapping, the map orientation was changed back. But it wasn't changed back yet. Nobody had to participate in space race, but they put up a treaty. All the Zarquon counter delays once for every remix. And the map changed for real this time. Which is where it's back to where it is. And then the aliens have gone here first, breaking the space tree, while the United States of Albania and Lucis is setting foot on being the second one. Also, the United States of has created a bridge for Bigland's Island. And yeah, that's just how it is. The Maturians were basically a migrant in the first bridge. Big was built for some reason. Apparently, the United States of Albania and Lucis does the same trick as what the Dynasty did way back in Remixes 47. United States, the dynasty, he created a country for Germany, way back with, in that, oh, the remix, in the war, we had the basically, way back with, before her Jabs and Griffania merged into Jabdania, or Joy for short, and to help fight Bigland. The dynasty just creates a new country for the Albanians and just leaves. Some dynastarians still only here today. Besides, the dynastarians are meant to be in the exchange. The same music played as if it was way back in Remix 47. And except they are now forcing them to convert into their font. The Albanian interbreak column and the Republic of Washability have one thing in common. They were influenced by the United States of Albania and Lucis. Which is pretty crazy, considering that the Republic of Washability, that the United States of Albania and Lucis only influenced only had to support the rebels, and the Albania and the Southern Republic was colonized by USAU. And then Bigland, which has been dormant for quite a while, decided to take a piece of Washable Kingdom near Arcadia. Yeah, basically, they want to do that. Basically, I don't see Bigland though. Oh, Bigland likes to basically be big. And they don't want to be small, they just want to be big. And then the airports were built. The USAU International Airport is basically here on Alhet for some reason. And it's crazy that they never show any airports near here, or capital cities, or normal cities over here. We really need to create a video about natural, physical, geography, not the hellish political ones that you see every now and then. And I want to see some airplanes. So yeah. The aliens instantly win the Great Space Race, which means that they'll be a type of civilization. However, no one takes it seriously, and they told that no one claims the land beyond the edge anyway. Also, Knights of Albania and Lucis create a country the old-style way. They just colonize this region, and then they leave it be, served in a typical dynasty style. The Southern Romskland Republic had a new government. They considered the interbreds as the greatest people that ever lived, and considered the Romskland and the Marine Romsklands to be nothing much. They considered the Frasarians and the Romanians to be nothing but stupid people. And so begins the Roms Romskland trouble. And then comes 14 by 14. And the Washable Kingdom buys TZ Island 2 from Bigland. Now they touch the north and the south out for the washable homeland. This is 14 square plus 1. Bigland bribed Washable Kingdom to give back TZ Island 2 in exchange for making them a colony on temperature land. This is a BL Washable Kingdom settlement. Which now lives on Snowflake Plate for some reason, but still has people here, so it does count. And after some stuff happened, USAU, I'm no stranger to long texts, but that's how it is. After some stuff happened, the United States Volcano Ulysses feels like it can't run up anymore due to seeing how it takes longer to going to the desired destination, while the aliens decide that they don't want to be a third civilization because it sees the people living in the solar system as equal, thus ending the space race entirely. Colonization exists, however. Meanwhile, the Soviet Federation and the Southern Romsk Republic knew that the Fresherians are part of their heritage, so they started to colonize it. Devastated that their power of Romskland is now gone, the Fresherians become the buffers when it was before, and they continue to be protected from the Iranians, the Soviet Romsk, and the Americans who are revived from the dead, so that they can claim that they are indigenous to that continent. This is the Romsk surviving republic, and they're starting to be invaded by the Romsk Soviet Federation and some of the Romsk Republic. With no help from the Romsk God, they start fulfilling their Romsk wishes and start to defend the Romsk heritage. Each Slovenian is going to land Yaje on the edge. It as well. Aiming to become a sequel. Aiming to become a type 3 civilization, and by the end of time. And then we finally made it to the chapter of life. 200. Bigland Axis is part of an island in homage to the 100th project. Meanwhile, the Romsk countries fight 8 and 2 against 1. This is what in the pre-Romsk War starts, and the second century of the Romsk world ends. Join us next time as we see the parts of North Tleskia and South Tleskia, and basically how the Romsklanders survived, and basically the years of 201 to 300 are basically an arc of North Tleskia eventually getting anschlussed by USAU. See you then. Bye.